Hi, everybody. This is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. I have double magic for you today. Indeed, I have a fabulous witchy couple. I have Phoenix LeFae and Gwion Raven, both authors, both prolific in all their work and what they do and in their life and the lifestyle. So without further ado, let me just bring them on. So, welcome. So let's start with ladies first. Hi, Phoenix.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Great. You have a new book out, right? Is this one fairly new?
Yeah, just out. April 8th is its official release date. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I just got it, and it looks like it's like a perfect, almost like a workbook explained through what it is. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to read it. And Gwion, I know you'd write lots of things too. And you're in and both of you actually are in these are my little Bibles I keep on my desk every day, with my little stack of, okay, who's today? What's today? Oh yeah, it's a Sabbath. So how did this, you guys, I love getting together couples, pagan couples, witch couples. Give me your story a little bit. Go back and forth. We're romantics in my crowd. So were you both on a path and then found each other, or I don't know who wants to go first?
It's true enough that we did meet at work. Yes, we were both already on a path. Phoenix had been a witch for a decade or more when we first met. Yeah. And shortly after deciding that we really liked each other a lot, we decided to go to England. That's where I'm from originally. And we wanted to go to Bath, to go to the amazing Roman baths there and also learn about the pre-Roman activities that happen there. And then we also wanted to go to Glastonbury. Now, Phoenix didn't really know much about Bath at the time, but there we were listening to the little audio program, looking out over this beautiful bath and these beautiful springs. And the narrator comes on and says something to the effect of, Britons have been worshipping here at these springs for more than 10,000 years. And Phoenix burst into tears, recognizing that people just like us had been going to this same place for thousands upon thousands of years. And then we did make it over to Glastonbury, and we went right on top of Glastonbury Tor. And if anybody has ever researched it, it's a fascinating place. And there we were standing over the Vale of Avalon, looking out over almost to Wales and the Bristol Channel. And Phoenix said, I'm going to draw down the fog. And sure enough, she stood there, arms raised, and the fog came rolling in. So this meeting at work thing was only just the very beginning of the story.
I mean, that is where
for my people who don't know, tell me a bit about your paths. I know it sounds like you're kind of eclectic in some of your work, but tell me about your path itself.
Let me see my path. Wow. So I grew up in England, as I mentioned, and as a kid growing up when I did, I was very fortunate. England has an interesting mix of myth and magic and history. So characters from history like, Robin Hood or Julius Caesar, or, they sort of lived and walked around England, right? So there's this interesting mix. And so as a kid, there was a place I grew up near called Abbey Wood. And it was called that because there was an old ruined abbey in this wood. And my mom worked in a hair salon. She was a beautician, and she would sort of send me off into the woods to go and play by myself. It was relatively safe to do that then. And I would just sort of wander around these woods. And as an imaginative little kid, I fought dragons and I played with magicians and I pretended the Romans were invading or the Vikings or, whoever it was. And so I was always fascinated by the fairy folk, the good folk, the people in the woods, whoever it was. And then many years later, like I said, I discovered Buddhism. And then when I went back to England with Phoenix, dived right into the occult and magic. And it felt just tremendously like home in all senses of the word. I knew I'd arrived somewhere at a practice that would stay with me for years and years, and it has done. You know, it's well over 20 some odd years now that I've been a practicing witch. And similarly to Phoenix, I'm a teacher in the reclaiming tradition and ritualist. I studied Druidry for some time, and then most recently, I'm also a second degree Gardnerian Wiccan, and an absolute avid reader of all things occult, Patti. So yeah, just if it's out there, I want to read it and experience it and try it.
So I love it. So how does it affect you? So you guys are a couple, and how does the craft, your belief system, your practices help your day-to-day life? Like, we do have to live in this mundane world, our muggle world, and do you really stick to your practices and ritual? I'm a big believer in ritual too. That's why I'm so excited to I think we lost ritual with everything went so left brain logic, and we lost the dragons and the fairies and the magic and the ritualistic thing. So is it, do you guys wake up and like dance naked around a bonfire or anything?
Pretty much.
Sometimes. Yeah, and we also run a metaphysical shop, so there is a lot of magic in our mundane, you know, that we talk to a lot of people that this is new, or they're just learning about crystals, or they want to buy a candle for health or whatever. So a lot of our life is really infused with that magic spirit. But I think that remembering to see magic in the everyday, to see beauty and mystery and things that bring wonder is what it's all about. That's like what witchcraft is, right? So I work really hard to experience wonder on a daily basis.
Gwion, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, our life is pretty magical. So yes, there are absolutely times when we dance naked around a bonfire in our back garden. And there are times when it's too cold to dance outside around a bonfire in our back garden. And so we parade around the house. But our life really is filled with ritual. Where I'm sitting right now in our house, as I look directly across from me, there is a big altar. It sits on top of our herb cabinet. So we've got every kind of mason jar, an old spaghetti sauce jar that you can imagine, filled with any number of magical herbs that we use when we cook, when we do spell work. And on top of that altar, it is dedicated to the Greek god Dionysus, who works with us a lot in this home. And if I just look a little bit more to the left, we over our fireplace, we have an altar to the Eastern European and Slavic character, goddess, witch, Baba Yaga. If I look over again, we've got a big altar for our ancestors. So every day we say hello to our ancestors, whether they're relatives of ours who have died and passed away, or whether they are mentors in the craft. So either people that we've personally known, or you know, folks that started a tradition or a lineage. And we pay attention to that every day. We clean those altars regularly. We've got a money altar. I can't think of a part of our house that hasn't got some kind of altar where we don't do some sort of daily ritual. And sometimes that's just as simple as walking past and putting our hand on the altar, or throwing a few pennies from our pockets into our money jar in a money spell that we have constantly going on our money altar. So yeah, our life is pretty magical. And for anyone that's listening that's new to witchcraft, I will tell you, if you are dating a witch and you've just discovered that they're a witch, if there's a rock in the window, don't touch it. If there's like a little pile of ash by the front door, don't sweep it up. These are all magical things. These witches know what they're doing.
Yes. Did you have that issue when you were first dating? Did you move a rock?
It's true. Yeah, there were a few things that I said, "What's this?" And Phoenix would just look at me and go, "Never mind."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us about what. Okay, let's start with you, Phoenix. Tell us about a little bit about this book, where it came from. Again, I wish I would have got a little sooner, but
yeah,
it really goes through step by step tools and thing. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, one of the things that I really wish I had in my early practice was more concrete directions on how to perform ritual. Like every book out there has got rituals in them, and it tells you what to say and when to light the candle. But there's nuance to ritual that I didn't feel like I was doing it right. And then when I would attend public ritual, it was like this mind-blowing experience. And there was these transitions and song and raising energy that it just didn't feel the same when I was doing it on my own. And I thought, what is it that these folks know that I don't? And the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft, really, I owe that entire book to that tradition, because I was raised as a priestess through the reclaiming tradition. I learned how to help create public ritual. I learned how to priestess different roles in ritual. I learned about the nuance and the transition and writing intentions. And so this book really is almost a love letter to the reclaiming tradition. It's a thank you for the experience that I've gained. And I hope that it helps newer folks create really beautiful ritual, because ritual should be beautiful. It should be fulfilling. It should awaken something and move something within us. And if you're just reading a ritual out of a book, you might not have that experience. It might feel a little more dry. And so I hope that this book helps to sort of water the process and help people sink more into the mystery of it.
I think that's beautiful. So just for anybody who doesn't know, can you kind of explain, we keep saying reclaiming.
Yeah.
Can you tell people what that is a little bit, if they're going, what's reclaiming?
Yeah. So the reclaiming is a tradition of witchcraft. It started in the 70s in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you've heard of Starhawk or read any writings by Starhawk, she's one of the originators of this tradition. And now you can find reclaiming witches all over the world. There are witch camps that happen all over the world. Each community kind of has its own little flavor. There are, different, the Portland community and the LA community and the Minneapolis community, they're all a little bit different. But the basic tenets of how we practice are the same. And we all agree to abide by the principles of unity, which is the only document that reclaiming witches have agreed on since their inception in the 70s. And so if you're curious about reclaiming, definitely reclaiming.org is the main website where you can find local community and connect. But it's a feminist, eclectic, ecstatic tradition of witchcraft.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening and maybe they're new to the craft or curious about the craft, and would you suggest they try to find a group or create a coven or find a metaphysical store or a cult store or something like that, or just start on your own? And
yeah. So, all the above. Yes, and yes is the answer
exactly
to that.
What I was going to say, all of the above.
So I will say, here are the differences, I think. If you're brand new to witchcraft, if you are sitting somewhere and you've got a couple of books, hidden on your bookshelf or under your pillow because you don't want anybody to find them necessarily just yet, that's a great way to begin. Absolutely a fabulous way to begin. There's so much to learn. There are so many brilliant authors out there, brand new authors. I think one of the most exciting things in witchcraft right now is that it's becoming, how do I say this, informal. And what I mean by that, when Phoenix writes, it's like having a conversation with a friend. So it's not like trying to read an academic book. And there are some brilliant academic books out there as well. And they have their purpose for sure. But there are a lot of fantastic books written by people that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that have been practicing. And so I think that's a really great way to begin a practice. Then try those things. Try anything in that book, anything that you think is fun or scary or seems like it's up your alley. Try it. It's absolutely brilliant. Then the next scary thing is try and connect with somebody else, whether that's a local coven or a local group. Go to a public ritual, go to a festival. There's lots of pagan or witchy festivals out there. Try that and see what it's like in community. I think Phoenix said this really well. I have to tell you this funny story about our kids. So our kids got out of school at different times. And so we would sit and we would pick up one kid and then we'd have to wait about 20 minutes until our other child got out of class. And while we would sit there waiting, we would read The Witch's Bible by Gavin and Janet Farrar, right? So we would read this book while we were waiting, and we'd be reading these rituals. And they're really good rituals, but they're a bit dry because I think they were written in probably, I don't know, the early 80s or something like that. Great stuff, but not very sort of user-friendly. But when you practice rituals and you can see those things in that book actually happening, they're fantastic. They're really brilliant. So my advice, be a solitary practitioner, read everything you can, go out onto your patio or into your back garden or into your living room, wherever it is, run around in the woods, be a witch, do all the things that you think are witchy, and then go see if you can do it with another group of people and see if it's different. It usually is.
That's beautiful. Well, it is. And I agree wholeheartedly. It's approachable now. It's, you don't have to have 12 degrees to understand whatever is. And it is, I mean, everything that I've read, it's like the largest growing belief system in America right now.
True.
Which is beautiful, because it's to take responsibility, whatever path on it you are. It's to take responsibility. It's you are responsible for yourself. And I think we need that. You know, times are scary. I say this often, times are scary, and people traditionally would go back to your traditional religion, church, temple, whatever. That's not keeping up for everybody. So that's why the upswing in New Age and witchcraft and everything. I even go next level because I live in the ghosty world. Some people who don't even want spirituality or witchcraft, they're becoming paranormal investigators, and let's go hunt ghosts instead. I don't need religion or spirituality, but I want to know there's something more than I see on TV every day. But this rise in the craft, to me, for our youth right now, it could not be better. Could not be better. And it is, they're simple, but I started out the simplest decades and decades ago. I was raised on Scott Cunningham. You could not have a simpler book. This is Earth. And I did exactly what you said, Gwion. I would do this and this, and then you find people to do it with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, funny story. I'll tell you. Scott Cunningham obviously died in the mid-1980s. Tremendous loss, but what an incredible author of it. He wrote so many books in such a short period of time, and many of them hold up really well, 40 years later. Some of them not so much, but I will tell you, as Phoenix said, we own a metaphysical shop, and those books still fly off the shelf. They are still as popular today as they were, maybe even more so.
Yeah, they do. He continued writing books for years after he died.
It seemed that way.
Scott Cunningham.
I wanted to just say really quickly, I think that public ritual can be a really good way to take a leap, because I'm super shy and introverted. And when I was in my early 20s, it was even more so. It was like painfully shy. And a public ritual gave me an opportunity to go and attend and do witchcraft with other people, where I could still sort of be anonymous, like people may not know me. I didn't have to stand out in the crowd. I could sort of blend in. And so like pagan conferences, festivals, public rituals give you this opportunity to try things out without having to really put yourself in the center of it all. And so, if it is something you're looking to do, or you want to take the next leap with ritual, I would really recommend public ritual. It's a way to be a little less scared.
Thank you. And it is everywhere now. I always felt spoiled because I live in Los Angeles, and the bigger cities were more liberal, more open to everything. But now, and I'm on the road as often as I'm not, and it's everywhere with this and that. So you can find public rituals somewhere. There is some little metaphysical, occult crystal, something store, and they've always got this big and ever-growing witch section. So
it's true.
It's good. Let's talk about, because I know you both write for these, and Gwion a lot, the use of these fabulous almanacs, these day-to-day things. Explain what this is for anybody who doesn't know what?
Yeah. So Llewellyn is the publisher. They put out 2 or 3 different almanacs or daily journals or calendars that you can use. And they're really great reference tools. We have on our bookshelf, I think we've got, 25 years worth of these almanacs. And so it's actually a tremendous honor for us to be in them, right? To have contributed to them. I never would have imagined that 20 years ago. It's incredible. But they're really like, I don't know, a daily check-in. What's happening in the stars this week? What food is associated with the month of May? Hey, Beltane is coming up sometime soon. What's the history of Beltane? What can I do on Beltane? And those almanacs, the 2023 Witches Compendium and the Sabbats, they're all about exactly that, sort of what's happening in the world at the time, in the witchy world at the time, and how you can plug into it. So great ideas for practice.
Yeah, and they're really great stories and well written. What you just said, 25 years, I pulled out, I don't get rid of them. So you don't get to follow the moon cycles and everything. But my oldest one I found is 2011, and I keep it right by my neck because there's, you're not going to get the right exact date of the Sabbath, but there's just beautifully written. So you guys don't think you're just getting a calendar that tells you when the new moon or the full moon or even just the main Sabbaths. They're full of amazing information by amazing writers.
And a ritual that was written for Beltane in 2011 you could still use in 2023 if you really dig it,
Of course.
They're great resources.
So the other book I don't have that we had, the other one, tell me about it. That okay, that one's a good one too. That's one of yours, Phoenix. That's not the one I was talking about, but let's go there. What's this?
Which is Heretics and Warrior Women, is really a deep dive into the history and ancestry of powerful women. In the book, I specifically dig into 9 different women that may have been considered witches, or the mythology around their stories is that they're witches, but ultimately they were heretics. They were heretical. They did things outside of the status quo. And so that book's really sort of a call to anyone who feels like they don't fit into the mainstream, that they don't want to fit into the mainstream. Just an acknowledgement that if you call yourself a witch, congratulations, you're a rebel, right? So it's just encouraging people to step into that more and to use the stories of these 9 different women as a connection point and a jumping off point and an inspiration point.
So are these famous women we would have heard of, or the lady next, all famous?
So women like Marie Laveau, Harriet Tubman. The only non-human is Circe. Circe is actually the reason this book got written. She sort of tasked me to do it. But Mary Magdalene is one of them. Of course, now that I'm
Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn, yes. So different women from across history that we may look back on their stories and go, oh, they were witches, even though they might not have called themselves that. They were radical.
Right. Yeah. They were powerful. They did things. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that looks fascinating. And the other one that just popped up that I didn't get the name in time, there's a candle on it. So tell us about that one. That you guys did that together.
We did.
We did. Yeah, this was it was a fun project, and it really. So we've talked a lot about ritual, right, and sort of the everyday life. And what we realized was, both as long-term practitioners of the craft, that, and you mentioned this as well, Patti, earlier on, that in many cases, in typical day-to-day kind of American culture, and really this is true in much of Europe as well, we've lost a lot of rites of passage and marking big events. We do honor things like births and marriages and deaths, right? Maybe things like, depending on the religion that you grew up in, maybe there's like a bar mitzvah when you turn a certain age, or you get confirmed, something like that. But generally speaking, we don't really celebrate rites of passage, but every single one of us goes through rites of passage. Some of them are biological. We all grow old, and we'll die at some point. As sad as that is, it's a rite of passage. Many people will choose to be coupled with somebody or be in some form of partnership, and sometimes those end. And what we realized was there are thousands of rituals that we can do. And a ritual often sounds a bit scary, but really all a ritual is carving out a moment from ordinary life and ordinary time and making it sacred. So sitting down for dinner practically every culture does this. If they sit down to eat, they often say a blessing. That doesn't make the meal any more delicious. It doesn't make it any more special. It doesn't make it taste any better. But it does make that moment sacred, right? It's just this moment in time where we say, we are here. We are sharing this food. I acknowledge you. You acknowledge me, right? And it's just this moment. So this book, Life Ritualized, we came up with over 60 rituals, 60 moments that any single person can do, either individually, as a family, as a coven, as a public ritual, where people can come together and celebrate some of life's most important moments. And there are literally things in there like when a kid gets a driver's license, or when your cat dies, or when you have a miscarriage, or when the kids finally move out of the house and it's just the two of you and you're like, it's our house again. What now? You know, all of these moments that we can ritualize and value. And similar to the book that Phoenix just wrote, there's a lot of open space in the book for you, Patti, to do the ritual the way you want to do it. We give you suggestions and we tell a lot of stories from our personal life and our personal rituals, so that you can find the place that you plug in.
But I think the most important part of the book is to really honor and acknowledge these moments that maybe culturally we don't have referenced on how to do. You know, we have wedding ceremonies, but to really put something through gives it more importance. It makes you actually stop and pause, and over culture doesn't really show us how to do that or make space for that. So in this book, we really wanted like pausing and doing something formal to ritualize a change or growth that's happening in your world. So, you know, I feel like the two books really go well, but it is all about ritual.
That's beautiful. So do you encourage, which it sounds like you guys have done, creating tradition out of ritual, for whether it's family tradition, tribe tradition, and because
yeah, it's really true. We have, and it's so funny now looking back, because our kids are all grown now, and it's interesting what they've retained, right? So we have 3 children between us, and one of our kids was raised. All 3 of them were raised kind of in the pagan world, and one said, "Nah, it's not for me." And one was like, "Yep, I'm a witch." And the other one, I think, just sort of says, "Well, this is how I am. This is who I am," and kind of goes through life that way. But what's interesting is when they come over for dinner, or we're celebrating some time of year or a birthday, they want some of those traditions that they have growing up that are all very much related to witchcraft, because they miss them. They're part of their upbringing, So, one of our kids, the one that said, "No, I don't really, it's not for me." When that kid moved into a house, they wanted a house blessing, and they wanted like herbs to burn in the house. And that was just normal to them. That wasn't witchcraft. That was just normal. That's what you do when you move into a house. So it's kind of interesting how they've all incorporated it.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. So before we go, because I want everybody to find out all the ways they can find out about you, what do you think is the biggest either misconception about being a witch or ritual, living our life, the biggest misconception, if that's not too big of a question? And then again, the biggest benefit.
I think the biggest benefit, Patti, that I have had over the years, certainly there's community, certainly there's friends. There's a tremendous amount of fun. I think there's a great book out there called "Do I Have to Wear Black?" by an author whose first name is Mortellus. And I think there's this misconception that we walk around upset all the time, angry, cursing people left, right, and center, only wearing black, coming out at midnight. And while some of those things might be true some of the time,
yes.
Right, it's not true all the time. And so for me, there's a tremendous amount of joy in the craft. There's a tremendous amount of color in the craft. I think about this time of year, Beltane is coming up really soon. And I think of all those colored ribbons on maypoles and the colors of food. I think the biggest thing that the craft has taught me is to be present in the moment. I'm not praying to a god about an afterlife. I'm not worried about what happens next because, frankly, I don't know, and I won't know until I get there. And hopefully, if I've lived a good life, maybe there's something wonderful at the end. But if there isn't anything wonderful at the end, and it's just, I return to the universe and the universe makes use of my body in whatever way it wants to, that's fabulous. I will have had just a tremendous amount of fun. And the craft for me is fun. I love doing magic. I love practicing magic. I love talking about magic. I love doing spells. I love cooking. I love dancing around fires. I love all of it. What's not to love?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Because I was raised without formalized religion too, and so at 13 I decided I wanted, because I kind of had this sight of seeing stuff, I wanted to try every religion, and this was the funnest.
Yeah,
by far. It's like, oh yeah, let's go here.
Yeah.
That is, I want to have fun, be a witch. And what you had both mentioned about the awareness of Earth and the planet. We need that right now, so we don't blow ourselves up.
We do.
Taking responsibility and things. So, you guys, this is great. I'm going to have you back once I get the books and read the books, more of it. But tell everybody where they can find you guys together and separate, anything you guys have coming up.
Coming up, we will both be in Atlanta in July at the Mystic South Conference. We each have 1 or 2 workshops that we'll be doing, and we're also putting on a public ritual at that event. So you can come and see the both of us there. You can find us at thewitchesnextdoor.com. Which is our collective website. And so you can listen to our podcast there. And literally what we do, Patti, is we sit across the kitchen table from each other, usually with a glass of wine or two, and we just chat about all things witchy. And it's great when Phoenix gets on her soapbox and goes for a rant. Those are the best bits about the show. And then you can find me at gwionraven.com, and you can find Phoenix at phoenixlefae.com. Yeah. And then, on all the social media things, type in Gwion Raven and you'll find me. Type in Phoenix LeFae and you'll find Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for bringing your beautiful, beautiful magic to the Witching Hour. You guys like them, follow them, see them at wherever they're going, and have fun. So thank you, Gwion. Thank you, Phoenix. I'm excited to get to know both of you. Thanks.
Thanks, Patti. It was really wonderful meeting you. It's really lovely.
Bye.